dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life.
Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Rob.
It is Mother's Day, the day in which we pay homage to Mystra, the mother of all magic, she who governs the fate of the universe, who administers the weave from which all wizards and sorcerers, warlocks and whatnot draw their power from. So thank you, Mystra.
Like Osiris, Mystra will be killed and reborn with each new edition.
Exactly. So
she
emerges from her sarcophagus and gives birth to the world. Anyway, yes. Hello, everyone. This is Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And I'm Dungeon Master Rob. And today we are going to be getting to some long overdue letters. We've been getting a lot. I think a lot of you are stir crazy in quarantine, asking questions, and we're sorry that it's been a couple of weeks. We had some experimental content to attempt, but we're back to the tried and true. So we're going to be answering your questions. First, though,
we've got questions about encounter building, campaign arcs, subclasses. You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it. First, though, Matt, some news.
Yes.
Some drama, some happenings within the Wizards of the Coast. Behind the veiled curtain of Hasbro, word is that Mike Mearls is out at D&D, no longer involved in the creative process.
Mearls down.
Yeah.
Mearls
has fallen.
I think he's going to be, working there. I just saw last week he wrote a module for Frog God Games.
That's weird.
Which is like a B tier.
I mean, Frog God is about as good as a third party gets, but it's still kind of weird for Mearls to do that. I wonder if they've just been...
How the mighty have fallen.
The thing is, though, I think he's still...
Hey, maybe lesson, don't out people to their accuser, or don't out accusers to their abusers. Don't be a shitty person.
Don't be a shitty person. Don't defend accusers. Don't accidentally or not so accidentally out people to the Anyway, unfortunately, the rumor I heard, though, Matt, is that he's just going to be working more closely on Baldur's Gate 3. It isn't like this is... He should be... Listen, I don't want... Yes, I want him to be canceled, but no, I don't want him to, be destitute. Just, don't let him work on important things anymore. Anyway, the point is that for whatever reason, Mike Mearls is no longer directly involved with... I believe it's just the creative part of Dungeons and Dragons. If you're not familiar with our previous discussions, Mike Mearls is a longtime designer and responsible for some not awful content. One of my favorite,
but also some awful
content. I mean, some of it's not so great. One of my favorite of all time. One of the ones from Saltmarsh, I've already forgotten the name of it, where you go looking for something from a shipwrecked vessel is a Mearls original. But of late, he's done some not so good things. What we're specifically talking about is his defense of alleged abuser Zach S. and all around shitty person, and also that he probably shared information with alleged abuser Zach S. and all-around shitty person, which is generally a bad thing. You should not do that. Don't approve of that. So anyway, it's only good if he is no longer involved in the creation of Dungeons and Dragons.
The Mearls news reminded me that the scuttlebutt back when D&D 5th edition, when it was D&D Next, was that basically Monty Cook back when he was on the team for 5th edition as co-lead designer, just couldn't stand Mike Mearls, and that was basically why he quit.
I had not heard that, though. I'm sure that Monty Cook, as any 50-plus-year-old grognard does, probably has his problems. But in the Mearls Cook Throwdown, I'm firmly Team Cook. I am a big ol' fan of Numenera. I think that he's overall a less terrible person. So, yeah, I know where I fall on that particular quibble.
Yeah, they've got Ray Winninger as the new designer, and I was looking. He worked on Torg. I hate Torg, but I've had fun playing it.
Reading about that. I have no strong opinion on Torg either way. Yeah. Anyway, the thing is, though, this has been my opinion for the better part of a decade now. It can only be good to move the old timers of Dungeons and Dragons to the periphery. They, of course, should be honored, as we should honor all of our elders. However, it is time for fresh blood to deliver new takes and new ideas to Dungeons and Dragons, especially since it continues to dominate the market. And if we want new ideas, they have to come to disseminate through TTRPGs. They have to come from D&D, since nobody plays any of the other products.
I mean, we still have I still feel like that this hasn't changed much in terms of generations, right? Ray Winninger, for however good of a designer he is still like someone who's like, the current generation of like lead designers are all people who like played their first game when they were 10 years old in the 80s, right? And have been designers since the 90s.
If I were Wizards of the Coast, and I'm not, and I think every decision they make is a bad one for the most part, I would not hire anybody over, let me be generous and say 35 for the remainder until, I don't know, until they stop making bad decisions. There's a huge generation of new players who came in with Critical Role and with Stranger Things, and plenty of them are old enough to have careers and experience under their belts, and you should hire them and not just a different, child of the 80s. But what do I know? I just got a fucking podcast.
Yeah. I feel like it's finally time. The next hire that Wizards of the Coast makes is going to be a creepy algorithm-made CGI creature that randomly generates adventures.
So anyway, Mike Merle's out. So all we got to say about that.
That's all we got to say about that.
We've heard some rumblings on the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's got I already forget who it is. Somebody attached to it. It has a director now, I think, which means it's actually going to happen in theory, potentially. We'll see. We did a lot of research into this for our last episode, and I also have my doubts. We'll see if Courtney Solomon
I have my
releases his iron grip on the rights to the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. But anyway, let's get to some letters.
Real or whoa, Rob. I got a surprise. We got a slow episode here, so I've got 4. This is the segment of the show where I give Rob 4 descriptions of role-playing games.
Does it have to be 4?
Okay, I can do 3. I give Rob 3 descriptions of role-playing games, and he has to guess whether these are real role-playing games or fake ones.
Okay. Hit me, Matt.
Okay, here's your first one. Hamilton, the role-playing game. You have the control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Hamilton, ! The role-playing game is a simple GM-less storytelling game using the triple F system, freestyling Founding Fathers, played with a deck of cards, a mic, and 2 6-sided dice. Retell and reimagine episodes from early American history in a game that lets you show the drama and the feels of the Founding Fathers and Mothers. The 30-page book includes 5 scenarios: Hamilton Burr, Jefferson Adams, Anne Hutchinson, John Winthrop, Lincoln Douglas, and a Federalist hodgepodge, plus a 2-page guide to designing your own episodes. Dying is easy, but role-playing is harder. Hamilton, the role-playing game.
I'm gonna say...
What you feeling here?
I'm feeling I'm feeling woe that it is not real, and I'll tell you my reasoning if I'm right.
Okay. You are right. This is fake. I made this up.
I'll tell you my reasoning, and that's that it doesn't include any quotes from the musical.
Oh.
And I know that you haven't seen it like I haven't seen it. And so a real fan of Hamilton cannot resist throwing in a quote about the musical at every conceivable opportunity.
This is a moral victory because dying is easy, but living is harder is a quote from the musical. It's just so generic you would forget it.
You had one, but I didn't hear any, shoot your shot or any of the other big timers.
You do not have control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story. That's a quote as well.
Oh, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about then.
we haven't seen it.
Neither of us have seen this, so all I have to go on is insufferable Hamilton fans. Hey, listeners, if you're a fan of Hamilton, that's okay. I just think that its cultural relevance is vastly outstated because everybody who's on the internet makes more than most people, and I, for one, cannot afford a $500 ticket to see a Broadway show. I also don't live anywhere near New York, so
you wouldn't play a freestyling role-playing game about the Lincoln Douglas debates or the antinomian controversy.
I would play a game about the antinomian controversy,
go.
but that's a particular nerdy interest of mine. Listen, I have heard these jokes before, or like suggestions that like things be resolved by rap battles. You cannot rap. I don't know who you are, listener. You can't rap. Your friends can't rap.
No.
Your players can't rap. You should not try to freestyle rap battle. I'm sorry. This is not a skill that any idiot can do. And if you force your players or your game to revolve around dueling rap battles, it will be an embarrassment for everybody involved. You are not Marshall Mathers. This is not 8 Mile. It is not going to work that way. Let's be realistic here.
All right, my knees knees are weak and arms are heavy, Rob, as I'm ready to give you our next.
All right, give me number 2.
Real or woe.
This is already the strongest start I have ever had.
Batting 1,000
to a wheel or woe.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever gotten the first one right.
I've never. All right,
you're off to a good start. All right, here we go. Number 2. All Out of Bubblegum. All Out of Bubblegum is an extremely short role-playing game that uses bubblegum as a pacing mechanic. Players start with 8 sticks of bubblegum and either have to roll greater than if the action falls in the kicking ass category, or equal to or under if it does not the remaining sticks of bubblegum on a D10 to resolve an action. A stick of bubblegum is lost if a successful ass-kicking roll is made against a character, or when a character fails a non-ass-kicking roll. When a player is all out of bubblegum, they automatically succeed on all combat-related actions, but fail non-combat-related actions. All Out of Bubblegum, a simple role-playing game about ass-kicking.
I want to say that this is real. I'm going to go with real.
This is a real one-page role-playing game.
Yes,
that
I love it.
Lots of fun.
I love it.
I've played it before.
I would 100% play this game.
Yeah,
I'm glad this is real. I'm happy that this is real.
You hand people packs of bubble gum, and you either kick at you. The less bubble gum you have, you're the more you kick ass.
I love it. Okay,
I need to go back and watch. Oh shit!
They Live.
They Live. Yeah.
I've been thinking about rewatching They Live a lot recently. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, here we go. Teenagers from outer space. Tommy Tanaka dove under his desk as the disco dwarves from Dimension X teleported with a pop into his homeroom. Zap rays sizzled overhead, vaporizing his English is Fun textbook and scorching one of the slower freshmen nearby. There is a sound like tearing rubber. In the corner, Vila monstered out to his full 13 feet 2 and began throwing desks around. Kano started to shape change, but a stray bolt from the boy-girl gun turned him into a cute blonde Kenneth. Welcome to the world of Teenagers from Outer Space, the amazingly weird role-playing game that lets you become a character in your very own, or even somebody else's, Japanese animation comedy show. Complete with everything you'll need to create silly superpowers, gonzo gadgets, bikini battle suits, mecha mayhem, and magical girlfriends. This new edition of the original award-winning role-playing game is guaranteed to change the way you look at anime forever.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna say real on this one.
What's your thinking here, Rob?
Well, Matt, when you're playing a game with another person, you have to go,
which we often do.
You have to. Well, you and I are playing a game right now. You are trying to fool me, so of course,
this is a role playing game itself.
It's like poker, right? Level 1 is like I know what I know, right? Level 2 is that I know what I think you know. Level 3 is that I know what you think I know, right? So we're up to level 4 now. So I'm thinking.
So I must have put the iocane partner in my glass.
So I'm thinking Matt knows that I know that he doesn't know very much about anime.
Yes.
But I'm still gonna go with real. I'm still gonna go with real on this one.
Okay, Rob, you are still batting 1,000.
Yes.
This is real. This is one of the first anime role-playing games ever made by this is by the guy who made I think Cyberpunk and the Witcher role-playing game.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Made.
Yeah.
What's the system? Is it
it's a custom system
okay.
that I couldn't describe quickly enough in a thing.
Okay.
So
I guess you might as well hit me with your fourth one if you did the work. Let's see how I do.
All right, let's see if I can get Rob to break his streak. All right.
And those of you who haven't heard any of the previous ones of these, I don't think I've ever done better than 1 in 3. Which is
fine in the MLB, but not fine in
not good
Real
enough
or Woe.
Not good enough for Real or Woe, yeah.
All right. Here is your final Real or Woe. Invisible Hands, the role-playing game. Tariffs. Statism. Price wars. Dark forces threaten the very system that has lifted billions out of poverty and ended centuries of warfare. Only you, Smiths, that's capitalized, agents of capitalism can save our world from the Luddites and protectionism that would push us down the road to serfdom. A game for those who have taken Econ 101. This uses the Cortex system. Invisible Hands, the role-playing game.
I'm gonna say that this is fake, Matt, and I'll explain my reasoning if I'm right again.
You are right again, Rob. You have beaten Real or Woe. The curse is lifted.
This is just like I know this is what you would invent to fool me. This is You've been really good with these, but you played your hand too strongly this time. You played your hand too strongly. The thing is, this would be a great.
This is the ultimate RPG that I would hate.
I would love to,
but I would actually play.
This is almost as good as the really boring Napoleonic one that you made up for a few
Sabers and Bayonets.
Sabers and Bayonets. We should invent these terrible parody RPGs because they are something that somebody would make. And it's only a matter of time before some libertarian dipshit does make something where you're a Smith, an agent of the free market, and you have to defend against against serfdom. All right, okay.
I'm a paladin in the Order of the Sons of Hayek.
I mean, you just call them the Sons of Liberty. That would be great. You just imagine a secret society of free marketeers. Oh, I hate it so much. But this would, we could make a parody RPG. It'd be great. Sons of Hayek. Ugh. All right, let's get to some letters.
Let's do some letters, Rob. Here's our first letter from Arash. Arash writes, Matthew and Robert, I have a homebrew campaign question. To give you some background, my campaign starts with the characters on a long sea voyage on a passenger ship destined for an island kingdom. Secretly, aboard the ship is a shipment of gold brought to the island kingdom by dwarves who are buying rights to a mithril mine over there. The island kingdom is selling the mine and to pay off a dragon on a nearby island who demands tribute. Unbeknownst to the ruling monarch, there's an opposing group in the island kingdom that would rather outright destroy the dragon. The group tries to steal the gold on the sea voyage so they can use it to pay a group of elite adventurers to take out the dragon. There is a series of events that take place from there that puts the adventurers in the middle of a power struggle. The question is, when making a homebrew campaign, how should it be written? Should I copy the format of a D&D module? I feel myself invariably drawn to writing a railroad campaign or feeling like I have to make this infinite flowchart. Do I even need to write the entire campaign, or would a general outline work, and then I just build details as I go into each session? Thank you for the show, Arash.
This is a great question. Matt may have a different approach. The answer that I have is I've actually done things both ways. Yeah. So for one of my homebrews, I did write out. Let me tell you what I did. So Pathfinder, for example, divides all of its, or used to divide all of its campaigns into sort of like 6. I'm not sure what they were called. Segments.
Chapters,
arcs. Basically. So what I did for a couple of them is that I wrote out the chapter as if it were a campaign setting. This is not necessary. I just did it because it helped me structure my thoughts. So if that helps you put it into a framework, and I often find that having sort of a template to model off of, make sure I don't miss anything. You know, it's like, oh, I need to put like some description here. I need this many encounters, blah, blah, blah. That can be helpful. In other homebrew campaigns, though, I have not done anything that detailed. And sometimes I will plan exactly one session ahead. And I think for the second option, you can totally plan one session at a time. You just need to have enough of like what Matt and I talk about, backups or contingencies. So if your players do something wacky, you have something prepared. But it sort of depends on your comfort with the campaign and the world, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in the choice between actually doing the incredible amount of work of writing your module out, most written modules are not short, right? They're 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 pages long. That's too much work for me, right? But between that and an infinite flowchart is sort of a happy medium where you can have some encounters and eventualities written out. But, no one ever needs to make an infinite flowchart, right? You could imagine, because this is if you're playing this game where anything can happen, that the flowchart is infinite, but you only need the next 2 steps from wherever the point on that flowchart the players are at.
So I think that having a good idea of like where the larger plot is headed is good, but you don't need to have every contingency planned for. And like Matt said, trying to write out all of those parts is just an incredible amount of work. Sometimes that can be fun. And if you have the time and enthusiasm for it, it really helps to have all of that to work with, but it's not necessary. If you're a first timer or new though, I mean, I think this is a piece of advice that I haven't really clarified, or we haven't clarified. I would venture on the side of more preparation rather than less. This may be like a little counterintuitive, but like the better you get, the less you need to prepare. But this is sort of like the burden of starting out, is that it helps to have more resources to draw from until you get very comfortable with being a DM and with adapting to situations on the fly.
Specifically on what you've written out, right? You have 4 great factions sort of designed, right? The kingdom, the rebels, the dragons, the dwarves, right? I would spend my time detailing the fun personalities in those factions, their goals and strategies, right? And then just that first adventure or session or 2. What's going to happen on this sea voyage that's about to get robbed, right? Yeah. having details on those two things are really all you need to do if you want to go for a less railroady campaign, because then you get to, decide, okay, well, I know how all these groups are going to respond, whether the robbery works, whether it doesn't work, whether the players decide they want to help the dwarves, the kingdom, the rebels, maybe go be friends with the dragon. Who knows, right? Maybe the dragon is the person they want to work for.
Right. And the nice thing about a sea voyage is that you can limit, the options are limited necessarily, and it doesn't feel railroady, right? It doesn't feel like you are, you're on a boat, right? Until they can get their own boat or teleport or whatever, they're stuck there, and it's not going to feel too forced. So that should help you guide at least the first session or so while you figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And I like this this setup here, right? There's lots of stuff. If your players want to play a power struggle intrigue campaign, that's perfect. And think about adding a few little side quests or things that'll tie the characters to different groups. So
yeah,
think about that, right? Side quests that'll introduce characters, because how are they ever going to get to know the dwarves,
right?
Or the dragon, or the rebels, right? Make sure there's some things that'll push those towards the players so they can make their decisions from there.
I think this is a really cool start, and I wouldn't worry too much about over preparing, and just try to plan far enough ahead that,
you don't have to copy the format of a module.
Yeah.
An outline and your stats and your descriptions of characters, because this is written personally for you, right? For me, like, they'll just be like an NBC instead of having a page-long write-up or a paragraph write-up like is in a module. It's just a bunch of descriptors, right, about their personality. And then there'll be a space that says wants, right, and a list of those. It'll be like enemies, and it'll be two things written down, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's perfect, right? Because it's my creation.
For me personally, I often like to have more. It's less stressful, but again, I have other obligations and responsibilities and only so much time. So some days I come with very little prepared, aside from a basic outline. And that's usually just fine. So, remember, this is supposed to be fun for you too. It should not feel onerous or like too much homework. So, yeah, just bear that in mind. All right.
Thanks for the letter.
Thanks, Arash. Our next letter comes from a former player. Hi, DM Matt and DM Rob. I fortunately have many folks in my life lucky enough to have the ability and means to self-quarantine during these wild times. With that said, I consider these loved ones a captive audience for Dungeons & Dragons, as you should.
Oh, yeah.
I started running Last Minds of Phandelver as a first-time DM and a not very experienced player. Hi, DM Rob. This is one of my players. She was terrific, and I could not be prouder that she's gone on to run her own campaign. I ended up killing someone in my second session. I stand by this one, as you should. I'd had to fudge some rolls and tweak the published material to prevent a TPK during our third session. I fudged a killing blow and allowed the last remaining party member to make multiple persuasion checks with advantage to convince the main boss and his lackeys they party of a grung, Yuan-Ti, dwarf, and half-orc were just there to deliver a package. Needless to say, I let them get away with it despite multiple low rolls and pretended the boss would have been won over with an attempt at diplomacy the whole combat.
Hey, we're from Amazon Prime Material Print Plane. You got your box of bat guano here.
Sword package here. I've seen many different modifications that experienced DMs have run and recommended to make sure the squishy level 1 party doesn't get annihilated the first adventuring day. Curious what your thoughts are on best tweaks. Do you run an NPC cleric that they find at the side of the road? Do you bump the party to level 2 mid-goblin cave? Do you find that other modules a better D&D learning tool than this one, particularly for groups of players that come from video games? Thanks, DMs, a former player. This is a great question. I have some thoughts about this. Matt?
Sure. Lost Minds of Phandelver is a perfectly adequate starting adventure. It has been 3 years since I have read it, so my memory is not super fresh.
I reread it recently, but I don't remember a ton about it.
Rob, since we get a lot of questions on this. I noticed there are a lot of questions on line. Maybe we should do a whole episode just about the Lost Mines of Phandelver, because I think it's probably the most popular D&D module.
I think
right?
this is
because I think
so.
People are like, I'm going to run Dungeons and Dragons, and if you Google like what
it is the
my
beginner
first
module, it is
comes up.
included in the beginner box, and I think it's now free.
The starter
set,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah. And I think it's now one of the free offerings. So yeah.
Okay. Well, then we should
put a pin in this. We will be talking about Last Mines of Phandelver maybe next week. But my impression is that it can be lethal, but it's not especially so. The thing is, like, goblins can be a tricky first level enemy. If they get lucky, they can definitely do a lot of damage. And I don't remember what the boss is, but I'm not super surprised. The thing is, level 1 is such a swingy level. Players have so few hit points that even like
anything can happen at level 1.
Yeah, even if they don't roll particularly poorly, like a string of hits can easily bring one person down. So here's my take on this. If your players are struggling, absolutely, if you want to give them an NPC cleric or something like that, especially if they don't have any healing of their own, there's different schools of thought on this, but if you think they're not going to survive the encounter with somebody to heal them, that's fine. Have them encounter somebody in the caves or in a prison, or brings them with them. Another like neat hack is if your players get TPK'd, they're knocked out. They're not dead, right? This is an opportunity if they get knocked out by an Otiug or an owlbear, right? It's not going to take them captive. But if it's a sentient humanoid, find a reason for them to be captive rather than just straight up dead. And, this way you can sort of be fair to the module and to the players without ending the campaign or having to start over with new characters.
Goblins or things of that nature might not want to kill them if they've incapacitated the party, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. I think bumping a party up a level after a session, it sounds like you've already done 2 sessions, right? It is more than acceptable to now be level 2, right? Regardless of what the XP table says.
Yeah, do it when it feels appropriate and between sessions, and even if it feels necessary mid-session, especially early levels. I think so. My rule of thumb with this is that I move as quickly through levels 1 through 3 as is appropriate, and then slow down. But don't hesitate, especially with these early levels, to just go ahead and give them a little boost. Again, the first level, even a stacked barbarian will have less than 15 hit points. That's 2 short bow hits away from being unconscious. That can happen to anybody.
The last question that former player asks is, are there other modules that are better learning tools for players who come from video games? Well, I want you to think about what sort of learning tools for video game players you've already presented to people, which is that unlike a video game, if you want to, at level 1, you can stumble into a cave filled with 30 goblins, right?
Right.
And be overwhelmed. Video games usually have like little bumpers in the gutters that prevent you from doing this at the first level. And that's fine. Hopefully, I would say, ask yourself, have my players learned that lesson, right?
If you think they haven't already said this out loud, make sure that you say, hey, this doesn't work exactly like a video game. You can do anything that you want. My job is to sort of accurately adjudicate how that would go. And if you run up to the king and slap him, you might get killed. Just
right.
Make sure your players are aware that just because there's an invisible wall in front of the king in a Final Fantasy game doesn't mean that there is in Dungeons and Dragons. And they're probably
right.
aware, but it helps to
play up things
out.
Like you're definitely outnumbered here, right? There are 30 goblins and 5 of you. They all have their bows at the ready, right? You've stumbled into something over your head.
And you're not alone in this, former player. I have to do this reminder with many of my players a lot. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? There are a lot of people here. That's a very big monster. you don't have to like, just make sure that they understand that what they're doing has significance.
And if you've already killed a member of the party, I think they know that. Hopefully.
Yeah. Listen, some parties are gonna.
You may have to kill another one.
Some parties are gonna need some deaths to figure things out, and that's not great. But it's also, it's not. As long as it doesn't like really upset them, as long as they're not like too bothered by the deaths, that is in and of itself a useful learning tool. You can also bend the rules in another way, in that there's lots of ways for players to be resurrected. Even if they can't afford the 5,000 or 500 gold pieces at level 1, somebody benevolent may want to see them continue their adventure. So if they're getting killed too often, you can bend the rules that way, and that allows them to sort of keep going.
And hopefully, so your party's first attempt at trying to come up with a outside the box solution was, we're there to deliver a package, and your players will get better at this. As you teach them the world, they learn their characters, and they learn some of the basic ideas of role-playing games. They may come up with better, more creative, and maybe more setting appropriate solutions than we're here to deliver a package. And I think it's a great example that they tried something.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it sounds like you're doing a great job, and it sounds like your players got unlucky and made some unwise decisions, which can happen to anyone. I don't know that there's really a better module than Last Minds of Phandelver for teaching this, if these are the problems that they're having. I think that this is a struggle that's going to happen for a lot of newcomers to D&D. And, that makes me think that maybe there is a better way to teach this for entirely new players. I think all Dungeons and Dragons modules, including Last Minds of Phandelver, assumes some familiarity with the concept of a tabletop role-playing game. But I don't know what this is something we should noodle on that. We should figure out an introductory module that might be an easy transition for really entirely new people. But I think this is a problem that's going to happen no matter what.
I think my experience, and this is again my memory from 3 years ago reading Lost Minds of Phandelver, is that there's a lot of little quests and side quests, and so I think it's probably great for new players, for new DMs. It's a lot to keep track of, right? It's more complicated than I would make my first adventure. So,
yeah,
you can always get rid of things, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You can always pare it down.
Yeah. Also, trust your gut. If you do want to make adjustments and fudge things, just go ahead and do that. You are already the most qualified person to decide whether or not your party can handle something. So go ahead and make whatever changes you feel are right.
Yeah.
Thanks again for writing, former player. Good luck. I would love to hear how this progresses as you get deeper in, and especially what you plan to do once you're done with the Lost Minds of Fandom.
Our next letter is from Dylan. Dylan writes, "Hey, Matt and Rob, I've blown through almost all of the podcasts in the last month or so, and I just listened to your Campaign Doctor 1. My question was, I was wondering if my campaign has too many directions for my players and I need to tie everything together, or is having multiple plot threads okay? Also, any advice you guys have on my campaign itself would be appreciated. Thanks for your time and keep doing what you're doing, Dylan."
This is a great question. So Dylan describes a campaign that involves mind flayers and Cthulhu and Greek gods and fungal growths. And I love this. I'm a big fan of sort of the grab bag approach of throwing in a bunch of different hooks and seeing what your players bite on. So Dylan, let me give you my perspective on this, because I've run a sort of I'm currently running a more flexible campaign where I've presented a lot of different enemies and threads and just sort of seeing where my players go. And so my answer is that maybe it's too much. So I love putting all these threads out there, but I found that my players were getting kind of frustrated trying to identify sort of a main villain or a overarching plot or something like that. So what I would do is so it sounds like your campaign's off to a good start. What I would do is put these things in front of them and then pay attention to what they sort of pick up on. And then as they progress, kind of let the other things fade into the background. Because if you do put too many hooks and too many different sort of themes and ideas out there, your players are probably not going to be equally interested in all of them. But the idea of having all of these disparate sort of ideas and themes, having a high magic, low horror campaign, isn't in of itself a problem, but you have to take the temperature of the group.
Right. You can always just ask them over email or at the end of a session being like, all right, well, do you think your party is interested in building up their new kingdom or investigating the Cthulhu cult?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which is the one you're going to pursue?
Yes.
Right. You can, it's fine to throw all these hooks out there and then pair them back to the ones the players want to play with.
Yeah.
The sort of, the way to cut through the Gordian's knot is, right, when you're paying attention to your players, focus on what is the motivation overall for their party, right? Do they want to be kings and queens of their own kingdom? Do they want to just get rich and powerful, right? What is their goal, right? Or do they want to be saviors of the world? Figure that out and then go with whatever that motivation for the characters is. Go with those plots.
Yeah. And without knowing more, I can't say for sure, but your campaign sounds great. You asked about just general advice. It sounds good. If I had one piece of advice, it is that it sounds like you are interested in a lot of things, and this is a problem that I have. So let your players lead. This is a mistake that I made. I threw all sorts of like little bits of things that I'm interested in, and then I let it get a little bit overwhelming. So like we said, there's nothing wrong with the campaign that you're running, but pay attention to your players. If you want to, just ask them straight up what it is that you want to do. What is it that you want to explore? And otherwise, it sounds like you're off to a great start, and I don't think there's anything wrong with presenting all of these different hooks and ideas and themes and seeing what sticks.
Yep.
Thanks for writing, Dylan. This next one is from Greg. Could you go over converting monsters from different editions? For example, I'm trying to convert the Roach Thrall from the Sharn City of Towers book. We mentioned this recently. Great monster. I messed with it, but it uses some categories I don't really understand since I didn't play that edition of the game. Is there a formula you use for converting monsters? Greg.
Oh, this is a great question. Because the official edition transition guide gives you very little to go on.
Yeah, there are a couple of resources for this, but they're not very good. And it is harder to convert 3.5 monsters to 5th edition, I think, than it was to convert them from other previous editions to newer editions. This is a particularly sticky one, especially if you're coming across something like a Roach Thrall, which has some kind of specific abilities. Matt, you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this. So first off, the main guide from 3.5 to 5th edition is that monsters generally have more hit dice, right? I would say the monster building guide in the DMG is a pretty good idea of a guide, right? Yeah. Challenge rating, I think, is usually about the same, right? A Roach Thrall in 3.5, which is a creature that inhabits humans, kind of like the roach from Men in Black.
It's like the mimics from that movie Mimic that nobody saw, where they look like humans but they're actually giant bugs that live in the New York sewers. But it's actually 1,000 different roaches. It's horrible.
Yes. That's way more fright. I would rather fight one giant roach than 1,000.
I would also rather
roaches.
fight one giant roach than 1,000 roach-sized roaches. Working in
Finally,
unison.
we've answered that question. Yeah, especially if they're working. I would rather fight the one, even if the other ones weren't. Working
No, I'd rather fight a giant roach any day of the week.
Yeah. So it's challenge rating 2. If you look at most monsters, and here's what you should do: is pull up your monster manual or the 5th edition CRD, right, and look at not CRD, SRD, and look at the list of monsters by CR, right? And look at some CR2 monsters, right? And see how many hit points and hit dice they generally have. Look for something like an aberration or a monster that is, kind of similar to this roach thrall, a giant insect, for example. An oncag, which is slightly bigger than a roach thrall, but is a big bug type thing. That is CR2. It has 6 hit dice. It has 39 hit points compared to 16 for the roach thrall.
Yeah,
you get to do a lot of pairing away.
Yeah, this is the hack, and there's no real secret to this, but compare CRs. It's generally safe for if it's a CR2 in 3.5 for it to be a CR2 in 5th edition. Find something with the right amount of hit points. Put the right hit die in, put the rough, similar saves in. Abilities is where it gets tricky, and that's where you're going to have to kind of get creative.
Right. For ability scores, however, those are basically the same.
Yeah.
Get rid of saves. We don't have those. Saves were a thing in 3.5. That saving throws are just ability throws.
Sorry. I mean that your creatures in 5th edition will have some favored.
Right.
They'll be proficient in some. So pick 3 that makes sense, and then
perfect.
Yeah.
So looking at the Roach Thrall from 3.5 edition, keep all of its ability scores the same. One thing you've got to change from 3.5 specifically is AC. AC of monsters is usually much, much higher. Looking at our guide from other CR2 creatures, the 3.5 Roach Thrall's AC of 18 is way too fucking high. It should probably be about 14.
Yeah.
Right? And then it has a full attack of 2 attacks. So you could probably say it has an action of it can make 2 claw attacks when it's in its human form. And then you can probably get rid of all of its skills, right? And just use its ability score or give it proficiency in the skills that it's best at. Like maybe Bluff turns into Deception and, since Listen and Spot turn into Perception.
Yep.
So it has proficiency in those 2 skills. And then its special qualities don't really have to change, like Human Host, right? Mm-hmm. That can remain as it is for your own purposes here.
Another good rule of thumb, if there's something that doesn't make sense or translate well, you just drop it. If there's like a specific template or resistance or something that just doesn't really translate very well into 5th edition, you can go ahead and drop it. You can try to add something on to make up for it, or you can tweak it, but it depends. Roach Thrall is definitely kind of a tricky one, but a lot of creatures are relatively easy. And I guess sort of my main advice is just not to get hung up, because in case we haven't made it clear, there's not a really easy or good way to do this. It just doesn't translate super directly. 5th edition is a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And especially the later you get in Pathfinder or 3.5, the more complexity creatures have, and there's just not going to be an easy way to make that change.
Right. So fixing AC and hit points, that's the one you have to kind of worry about. But can I give an example from one of the abilities? So for example, Roach Thrall in 3.5, while it lives inside its human host, a Roach Thrall gains a +10 racial bonus on disguise checks, on bluff checks, when attempting to pass itself off as its human host. There's a bunch of complicated 3.5 things there. racial bonus, skills that don't exist anymore. And all you have to do with something like that, at least if I was running this in my game, is just say this creature has a bonus on skill checks to pretend to be human, right?
Even
and
easier,
that might be advantage.
Yeah.
Or just say, or just up the DC if your players are trying to be like, is something wrong with this person, right?
Yeah. But trust your instincts, and this is a tricky thing, and this is definitely a challenge for even experienced DMs. Maybe we should write like a slightly more detailed guide on this.
Yeah.
So thanks for writing and asking this question, because I'm realizing now that it's not something I do a lot, but it is something that I do from time to time, and there's no easy way, but I definitely have a bunch of rules of thumb that I use to save myself time, basically, because the biggest problem here is that like you can waste a bunch of time, and that's not a lot of fun.
Here's my time-saving trick, is if you're converting from 3rd edition or really any edition to 5th edition, find a similar creature, use its AC, hit points, and attack and damage bonuses, and then everything else, like special abilities, I just keep the text the same and just translate it in my head into 5th edition. You may not be comfortable doing that, but for me, that's what works.
Yeah. So thank you for writing, Greg. I hope this is helpful. This is another one of our promises that we might or might not keep, but we'll write a little guide on how to do this conversion, because there's no easy answer, but there are definitely some things that you can do to save time. So this is an easy thing to do.
Here's our last letter. Folks, thanks for sticking with us. From Brianna. Brianna writes, "Hello, DMs. Thank you so much for making this podcast. I'm relatively new to your podcast and very new at dungeon mastering. Last night was my 5th time DMing all one-shots. It went really well. I listened to all your DM tips and letterbag episodes I could find. I have 5 level 6 characters. Going off what I could figure, what I thought was a balanced encounter, my fights went fairly well. The first fight was one blue slod, and the second fight was a red slod and an archmage. I think I ended up doing a total of 15 damage the whole night. Though using XP and the Kobold Fight Club website, I thought I had made hard or deadly encounters. Can you point me to the best episodes to go back and listen, or do you have any suggestions for this very new DM in making encounters? Thank you so much for making the best D&D podcast I have found, Brianna."
Brianna, this is a great question. And so first, I want to tell you there's nothing wrong with how your encounters went. I, an experienced DM, very often throw things that I think will gravely challenge my players, and they effortlessly waltz through them. Matt will remember my final encounter with Strahd for our long-running Curse of Strahd campaign, which I beefed up considerably, and regardless was a cakewalk for my extremely prepared and ruthless players. There are other times when I throw a bunch of mooks at them and they will faceplant and take a bunch of damage. So sometimes the dice are against you, and I wouldn't worry too much. But there are some things you can do to make encounters a little bit more challenging, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think, at least for me as a dungeon master, that using Kobold Fight Club is that useful. The biggest thing, and it looks like that I can tell from your letter, is that you had 2 encounters, one with 1 monster and one with 2 monsters versus 6 characters.
Yes.
Right? And even though slots get multiple attacks, and even though, your Archmage and your Slod, there's a spell cast and a multiple attacks, it's still 2 versus 6. Try an encounter. The biggest thing, if you want to make your encounters more challenging or more hard and deadly, is to up the number of monsters.
Yes. This is my pro tip for every DM. And it's frustrating because sometimes you want to have one big bad, and that's why they've given, and this is one of the things I like about 5th edition, is they've given the big bads legendary actions so they can act more often. But even then, that isn't enough. To really challenge a group of good players, you need more baddies. You need a lieutenant and an equal number to them of mooks. And you may not think that a bunch of level 1 or level 2 baddies is going to challenge a level 5 party, but you'd be surprised. They will land hits, they will get in the way, they will make moving difficult. They will even if the CR isn't as high, you know, and this is a problem with the CR system. You know, if it's something like Orc Warriors are CR like 8th or 4th or half or something, but like they can do a ton of damage, right? So even if you have to like reskin them as guards or something, that's like, that can seriously put a hitch in any combat. You know, combining that with a priest or a mage or a bigger monster. This is something that took me a long time to get right, but more enemies played intelligently by you is always going to be a bigger challenge than two big bads.
One big bad.
Yeah, or one big bad or two big bads.
The other tip for that is to put a ton of the last 2 boss fights I've had with my players have been I've been happy. I feel like as a dungeon master, I'm getting happy with how I balance fights. And let me tell you what made both of those fights challenging is that one had an enemy that had flying and environmental effects, and he could put up, you know, walls of blades, and there were multiple, you know, enemies with jetpacks and turrets. And then the other, you know, it was a bunch of moving platforms in a spirit realm, and the, you know, bad guy could teleport. And so consider your bad guys and your environmental effects to really challenge your players. And, you know, some players will be really happy being like, well, I'm a druid, I turn into a spider form, and I jump across all the platforms and string webs that my, you know, allies can use. Perfect, right? So add in some environmental stuff, and you'll up the ante for these deadly encounters.
This can be a little bit of extra work and can be hard to represent sometimes, but yeah, another easy trick to make things more interesting and challenging is elevation, concealment, environmental effects like wind is like, that's an easy one. I had a really good fun encounter on top of a building in the middle of a hurricane that just like players had to, you know, their ranged attacks didn't work as well, and they had to make some checks just to get closer to the bad guy. These are small, easy things that don't add a ton to the lethality of the combat, but it's more interesting, and it adds complexity, and it'll make it a little bit harder for them to just dunk on your bad guys.
Right, because usually your goal, right, is, you know, even though we talk about building deadly encounters, is to not kill the players, right, but make it feel like a fun and successful challenge that the players feel like they use their wits and skills to overcome. So my last suggestion for building and making encounters is really, you know, when your players, when this happens, because it will still happen to you even when you become an experienced DM. Your players will master a challenge you thought was difficult, is to really emphasize how great they were, right? Mm-hmm. Players like feeling like they really fucked up the DM's plan for a hard encounter. So lean into that, and it will be a success for you instead of a failure.
This is a general tip for DMs. Don't be afraid to pull back the curtain from time to time. I always tell my players when I was expecting them to be challenged by something and they just wallop it. You know, one of my players got a very lucky banishment on a high level devil the other week, and I was like, well, that's it. That's all I got planned. Good job. Like, you know, so don't be afraid to let them know that they did a good job. You know, it'll make them feel like, even if it wasn't super challenging, that they, you know, they ruined your plans. Don't be afraid to let them know about that.
Yeah. Praise them. Turn those failures of, oh, my hard encounter wasn't hard, into like, oh God, you guys have, use some great tactics there that turn that hard encounter easy, right? It is the player. Praise the players and put the ball in their court for making a hard encounter easy, right? Whether that was true or not, you know. People like praise.
People love to be praised. Okay, everyone, we have more letters, and we will try to get to more of them soon. Thank you all for writing. As always, if you have questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, send us an email at dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at DM of None.
Or you can give us a call at the Dungeon Master Hotline, 774-203-4629.
We'd love to hear from you. Rate, review, stay inside, stay safe, and keep rolling them dice.